Good morning, everyone.
What up?
Welcome to Queued with just the two of us today.
Just the two of us.
Building those castles in the sky.
Will and Jaden. Will they decide who's who?
Oh, I was gonna say. I was gonna ask you to decide.
Yeah.
I do say a lot of stupid shit, so I feel like I already know who I am.
We'll let the people decide.
So Jeff, it's early in the morning, and you got me up early in the morning to do the only thing I'd be willing to do, which is talk about Dota.
Yeah.
Because apparently I spoke a deep burning in your loins for esports.
I don't know about all that.
It's the money, isn't it? That's what's really.
Well, it's just like why? Why?
Why not, Jeff?
Yeah, like why? I don't get it really, to be honest. Like I don't understand it. I guess like I'm not against it. I mean, I love it actually. I mean, why not have someone make millions of dollars potentially for playing something they love? But why is it so popular? Why is it like? What is this and why?
Why does it exist?
Yeah.
All right, well, that's fair. So I think we might do this video in two parts.
Yeah.
Because I think you've got some specific questions, but the first thing I'm going to do is sell you on the international.
All right.
Because where it's at right now is a great time to do it. Because if you're not a fan already, it's hard to jump in. The group stages have just finished.
Okay.
So if you're not a fan, that's not where you want to start.
Okay.
This is what's coming up on the 3rd.
Okay.
Is the main event. This is the big thing. So this is what's actually going to decide who gets some money.
Right on.
So this is a perfect time to actually jump in, and I'm going to give you the sell on why you should care about the international. Now, if you don't know where this conversation started, check out our podcast. We'll put a link right to the actual time.
I'll put a link on the side here or here, and you might have to click a little dot here or here.
Perfect.
Oh God.
You see, you already said it now. The link is going to be probably somewhere down here because we're so good at this. But and we'll link to that part of the conversation. Unless you want to make them watch the whole podcast.
May have to make them watch the whole podcast.
All right,
depending
perfect.
on how YouTube lets us do it.
Well, what we talked about there was actually Mark had a question about how it was funded.
Right.
And we had a conversation about Valve and hats, and that part is boring for actually selling you the international. But if you're interested, check it out. So what I'm going to tell you, Jeff, is the international is basically the culmination of a very informal Dota season. So this is the big event. So this is like the Super Bowl, the Stanley Cups of Dota.
Right.
It's not organized as such, but everyone treats this as the one event. And with a prize pool it's almost near $18 million now. That's the reason why, for nothing else. Now, this is Valve's tournament. Valve makes Dota 2. Okay. For some history on Dota 2, it was originally a Warcraft 3 mod. So you used to have Warcraft 3 to play it. It's now progressed into its own standalone game. But essentially, the game is pretty unchanged from its origin. Still has lots of the same heroes. Most of the abilities are the same. So the game really hasn't changed at all. It just looks a whole lot fresher. Right. So in this game, it's a team game. There's 5 players on each team, and then there's a collection of coaches and strategists. But that part's not important. It's 5-on-5, and essentially the game is like a giant tug of war. So each player plays their own hero within the game that's trying to get to the other person's side. Why is it interesting? Well, it's interesting because there is so much strategy. So there's over 100 different heroes, and each team is almost always a different combination of those heroes.
Okay.
So you're never going to see the same game twice. And even if the same heroes were to play, the game will almost always unfold differently.
Okay.
So there's lots of variation. There's lots of really unique and cool things you can do. But because the mechanics and the playstyles are generally the same, there's enough concreteness to keep it all together.
Okay.
So it's not like you're going to see something once you start watching. There's not going to be a whole lot of surprises in terms of how things are going to work. Other than that, the other big thing, the reason why, is because the players are so motivated. So we're going to show you right here. I'm going to stop because this is the big thing that'll sell it. So right now, Valve is going to take 25% of the prize or what they're collecting for revenue for this. And we'll talk about how all that revenue gets generated and what it looks like in-game later. But basically, the own player base is contributing to this.
Right.
So a lot of people that watch this picture it as their own event because they're help funding it, they're help driving it, they're essentially helping put bodies in the seats at this place. And of course, the big take is that first prize or that first place, which you can see is probably by the time this is all finished, because next week is going to be pretty huge for generating some more revenue.
Yeah.
That's going to be well over probably $6.5 million.
Wow.
And when you consider you're on a team of 5 players, even after you pay all your people with $6.5 million, you're probably walking away with $1 million.
All right. Yeah. Wow.
So that is the huge draw for it. Now, why is it interesting for someone else to care? I mean, it's not like you're gonna make it. Well, the thing about Dota that's really cool, because
you don't know I'm not gonna make it. I mean, I could be here 2016. I could be in that arena.
You think so? You think you got international 6? All right. Follow us later to track Jeff's progress. The big thing about it that's really cool is the community is very engaged, and while it's sometimes a bit clowny, there's lots of cool stories, just like any sports team would have. I know you're a big Montreal Canadiens fan.
Yep.
They've got like a very storied career, like the whole legacy of the team is fantastic. There are teams in Dota that have that same kind of story. So, for example, one of the fan favorites is this team here, Na'Vi. Now, Na'Vi this year is very different than how it used to be. So, Na'Vi is actually a former international winner.
Okay.
So they've won this event before, but almost everyone that's on the team now was not part of that squad.
Okay.
So there are a few core players that are still left, and it's a very well-loved team. Most of the community really like either cheering them on or hating them because of that.
Fair enough.
And at first, they weren't even invited to come, because their team has changed so much. They haven't been having the greatest kind of run.
Right.
They weren't invited. However, there was a play-in series, and they actually won from their area, so they got to come. So those kind of stories fill the international. For another example, Team Secret actually has 2 of those players that won the international, and they've gone on to form their own kind of super team.
Okay.
This is the team to beat, kind of thing. So they're considered, number 1, number 2.
Right.
They're going to be the guys to watch. So all these teams have their own little story. Some of them are really cool in that they're really like underdog stories. Like Complexity Gaming, for example, won the American playoffs, and the American region is considered kind of a shithole for Dota.
Okay.
There's one good team,
right,
and then there's a whole bunch of teams that are kind of average.
Okay.
So nobody thought too much when these guys won. They actually, during the group stages, finished in the winner's side of their bracket, which no one expected them to do.
Okay.
So there's a lot of buzz around them right now, and there's all these, again, it's really the thing that I would say sells Dota the most are all these little stories. And if you're interested in any story, of course, Valve being the money masterminds they are, on the international page, if you click on media, they actually have player profiles.
Right.
And it's typically 1 or 2 players on each team that kind of tell you the story, and they pick the stories that are important to the team. And they're actually really well done videos.
Yeah.
They're super interesting. Even if you're not familiar with the game, they generally make these like stories about what motivates you to play, why are you here, and that's, I think, the kind of the cool stuff about this is, sure, the money's great and it is a video game, but these are real guys. They've sacrificed a lot because esports is a new thing. Right. If you tell someone you're going to drop out of school, because most of these guys are of the high school or you should be going to university age,
right,
and you say, no, Mom, I'm going to stay home and play games. Like, I know exactly how that conversation would go in my house, right? So these guys they're doing it. They're hustling to get this, and I think that's the coolest part of it.
All right.
Have I convinced you at all?
I mean, it's intriguing. It's intriguing.
So one of the other things I'll tell you about the main event is there's actually going to be what they call a noob stream.
Okay.
So most of the games are commentated by professional casters and generally are also accompanied by former players or people that have just shown that they've got a very high level of game sense and awareness and understanding. And that's great if you're a fan, but they're going to be talking about stuff that's completely foreign.
Right.
So what the kind of collective casting community has decided about this is that they're going to have a stream that's a lot more noob friendly.
Okay.
So the people that put it on are generally they're well connected in the community. However, they're more so known for doing some of the funnier stuff.
Right
So it's going to be a lot lighthearted, a lot more lighthearted. It's actually enjoyable for people that are familiar with the game to watch.
Right.
It's that kind of content. But it will explain the whole process of how a game unfolds.
Right on.
Because there's really two parts to the game. There's the strategy involved in picking the heroes, because they have like a collective pick-ban phase at the beginning to pick your team. And then the game itself.
Okay.
And the first part is probably what I would say, you're not going to get too much out of that. If you're new to the game, watching someone pick and ban, because it's literally a static screen with like someone picking, taking like 15 minutes to pick heroes. It's not that part, you won't get much out of it. But the game itself, they go through, explain the game. So if you are interested in checking out some of the matches, that's where I would suggest you start out.
Yeah, I can check that out.
So anything else that I can sell you on the international? Any questions you still have?
Well, so like these teams, they come together. Obviously, there's a lot on the line for them, for cash and all that. But like Valve has, obviously it's for them to make money. But like, how did it get to this level? Like, how did it become an international?
So the story of the international, when Dota first came out, it was a beta. Mm-hmm. It wasn't available to everyone. It kind of trickles out how these things do. So people that were kind of connected in the community, previous teams that were still playing in the Warcraft 3 client, Valve said, hey, come check this out. This is the next new thing.
Right.
And there's a lot of apprehension because at that point the game had years of development, and I have to say development in kind of quotes because it wasn't like official Blizzard development at that point. It had years of development that these players were not willing to come jump ship for this new thing.
Right.
So Valve kind of had to sweeten the pot. In the first international, you can actually go on Valve's YouTube channel and check it out, but it is not anywhere near the same level of production that goes on now. It's very difficult to watch. It's not fantastic. But Valve said, we know we need to draw people. How are we going to do this? And they threw down $1 million.
Right.
And there wasn't any of the community participation at that point because most of the community hadn't played the game yet.
Right.
This was Valve's way to show it off. And everyone was like, $1 million. And at that point, and even still, I mean, if you tell someone there's $1 million video game now, they're still gonna want to check it out. But at the time, it was unheard of.
Right.
This was just a preposterous amount of money. I think the closest thing might have been like MLG tournaments that at that point were like maybe 30 to 50,000.
Okay, right on.
So this was in like another league of its own.
Right.
And they got the attention from that, kind of drew in the fan base that was already familiar with what was going on, but wanted a reason to go to Dota 2.
Right.
The International 2 happened, and I would say that was probably the watershed moment for them, for not only getting most of their previous community engaged, because even in the first game there were still a lot of reasons why you wouldn't want to play it. The hero pool was very low because they hadn't brought over all the heroes. The art wasn't done. All of the assets weren't done. It looked great. Right. By the second one, more of the heroes were in it. It had more time to build this kind of critical mass, and that brought most of the community back and reached out and extended past it. It was also the time that the beta became a lot more widely available. It wasn't so difficult to get. I believe in between the second and third, excuse me, the beta was closed, or opened up rather, so everyone could come in.
Right.
You didn't need to get an invite.
Okay.
And because there were more people and free-to-play games were really taking off, people were checking it out that weren't even fans before.
Right.
The International 3 came out with the compendium and ways to better engage the crowd.
Okay.
And sort of crowdfund this whole tournament. That increased the prize pool, increased the amount of eyes. It started gaining that kind of attention of the media, the Forbes, the New York Times, that kind of thing. We're like, hey, check this out. There's a video game over here that people are going nuts about, like it was the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where this has started. And now, we talked before this started about how it went from we've got a place called the Cohen in the city, which is essentially like an orchestra hall.
Yeah.
It kind of went to basically the Seattle equivalent of that, a small orchestra hall, to now the stadium where the Supersonics play.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's huge.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. Honestly, that sounds rather incredible to think about, like, how it's all come together. I think that Noob stream sounds, the most intriguing there, where it's an easier jumping on point if you're looking to watch and try and follow along and be a part of the conversation. But yeah, no, that sounds great. Well done.
Well, I think what we'll do is we're going to stop this video. Mm-hmm. If you're interested in more, we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the in-game stuff. We might actually kind of even start up a match just to show you what it would look like if you actually went and sat down and watched the map. So
sounds good.
I'm Mike.
Jeff.
Check it out more. We're going to post a link. Do a little hand motion to where part 2 might be.
One of those corners, I think.
Perfect. See you later.
Peace.